I finished building a small little collection of rocks, and I want to be able to import these and incorporate them back over in my blacksmith shop project file. And this is a really great way of working. Having these assets in their own project file makes them independent. It gives me the ability to import them into any future model that I need rocks in. That makes them almost like a universal asset, which is pretty cool. But I want to be able to combine them intelligently and efficiently over in my blacksmith shop project file so that it continues to support the 3D modeling workflow. So this is what I have so far. And what I'm going to choose to do is create a collection for our rocks. And it's really easy to do this. And the first thing that we're going to do, as you would imagine, is that we're going to add them into a collection. So I'm going to select them in the outliner, and then I'm going to hit the M key, M as in mother, or as in this moment, move. You're going to get a small little menu that appears underneath your cursor. And of course, we're going to name our collection rocks, something like this. We'll hit OK. And now all three of those objects have been nested inside this rocks collection. They're kind of like folders, if you will. Of course, we can independently continue to adjust each one of these, but we can also go in and turn the entire group folder off and reference the entire collection in a number of really cool ways. Okay, let's go ahead and save that. And I'm going to open up my blacksmith shop project file so we can start working with those rocks in here. And there's two ways that we get to import our rocks into this project file. One is called appending, and the other is called linking. Let's begin with the easy one first, and we're going to append our rocks. Think of this kind of like an import. We want to take the data from one object or one Blender project file and put it in another. Let's go ahead and do it. You can find the append object in the file pull-down menu at the top of the screen, and it's right here. But if you look real carefully at the icons, I think they're really intelligently designed because one's a paperclip and one is a chain link. More on that here in a minute. Let's go into append, and now we physically need to find the Blender project file that contains the information I want to import into my blacksmith shop. In my case, it's on my desktop, so I'll find my blend and I'll double click on it. Our Blender project files are really nothing more than a whole series of folders that contain a bunch of different data chunks inside of them. And we're looking for, if you remember, the collection folder, because I want the entire collection of rocks to come in. It's another great way of working. Instead of having to import in 1,000 different Blender project files, we import in one collection, and all the members of that collection come in. So I'm going to find the collection folder. Here's the rocks, and let's just hit append. Now they're going to be imported in at the location they were in the other project file. Also, if you look at the outliner here, it's preserved that hierarchy. So I still have the collection. I can turn it on and off. I have all of my independent objects in here as well. It's as if I was working just quite wonderfully. Even brought the materials. It's as if I was working in that other Blender project file. Okay, I still get access to all of the data that's associated with this object. If I hit tab, I can go and select the geometry and have fun. It really is a wonderful combination of my rocks Blender project file and my blacksmith shop project file, which is pretty cool. However, this is not the only way that we get to combine information from one Blender project file into another. Let me show you an alternate way. And I'm going to select all of that stuff that I just brought in and delete it by hitting X. My forge is still here. Didn't get rid of that. Just turned its visibility on and off. Now this time what I'm going to do is that I'm going to do link. Same process as far as navigating to the Blender project file, the correct collections folder, and the collection that I want to import in. That part is identical. But watch what happens now when I choose to link this collection versus appending it. We still get the rocks, but now things are a little bit different. First, let's start off over here inside of our outliner. If we examine the contents of it, interesting. Now we're just seeing a reference to the collection with this chain link icon. And it's even, we don't have any of the objects as well. We just have the collection. We can turn it on and off. We can turn its renderability on and off. But I don't get to go in and get localized control over any of these two objects. Now, why would we do this? Well, this is a great way of working, especially when you're working in large productions and large teams. The only way to change the geometry of the rocks is to go into the original Rocks Blender project file. These two project files have been linked. We're sending information from my Rocks Blender project file into my Blacksmith Shops project file. So the owner and operator of my Rocks Blender project file is the only artist within inside the team that can physically make a change. That's also a big advantage. It also makes it a more efficient way of working. It's efficient at render. This project file here, the blacksmith shop, is not having to manage all the data that's associated with the local objects and the local data containers for all the geometry. So it's going to make it a little bit more efficient to work with. Let me show you a cool thing about working with these linked files, because I can't go into edit mode when I select these. However, if I was to go back to my Rocks Blender project file and just make a wacky change, I'm going to save this, by the way, Control S to save. Let's go back into my previous Rocks Blender project file, the original, and let's just make a change to, I don't know, this one. We'll go into edit mode, grab these guys, and we'll just, I don't know, move them up, something like that, okay? Now I'm going to save the original and then return to my blacksmith shop project file, and you can see that things are a little bit different. Yeah. See how over here, all that information was cascaded down into wherever the linked project exists, which is pretty cool. So this is a great way for us to work a little bit more collaboratively, especially if you have a character artist or hard surface artist that doesn't want to have anyone kind of change the geometry, or it's been approved by the director of the show or a supervisor. That person's going to want to lock it down and make sure that it doesn't change. This is the great way of working. However, at the moment, we don't even get the ability to access these rocks at the object level. So we got to have a way for us to be able to preserve and retain all of that object information. I want to link both the collections and the objects. And there's an easy way that we can change this to further kind of expose those data containers that we saw in the original Rocks Blender project file. With these objects selected, so the rocks linked objects selected in the outliner, I'm going to go into the object pull down menu at the top of the screen. You can also do this in the right click menu, by the way. Excuse me, I apologize. You can't do it in the right click menu. It's only in the object menu at the top of the screen. And we're going to go into relations. And there's one that there's two in here that I want you to make, to be a little bit mindful of. First, make library override. When you click on it, a new popover is going to appear underneath your cursor, and it's going to say, are you really sure? Make library override, question mark. If you hit OK and examine the contents of our outliner, check it out. Now we have access to all of the objects inside of the outliner, but we're still seeing this link object in here. We can see the data containers. That means we can access them through maybe a number of different systems, but I can't change these data containers. With this rock selected, I still can't go into edit mode and make a local change to the data container in this project file. I'd have to go to the rocks project file to do that. If I really wanted to be able to have complete control over this object, there's one additional change that we can make in that same pull down menu, that same object pull down menu. We're going to go to the relations section, but now we're going to do make local all. That's going to make a local copy, of all the data that we originally had in the Rocks Blender project file, incorporated into here. This is kind of doing the exact same thing that append was doing. So if we do make local all, check it out. Now all those links icons disappear from the outliner, and we have complete control over these, just as we did in the other one when we appended it in. However, this is no longer referenced back to that Rocks project file. They really are independent again. For example, if I was to make this change, instead of having a mountain, I've made a big valley. Let's save it. Okay, I'm going to go back to my Rocks project file now. Yeah, and it's still the mountain. It's no longer that valley. So once we make a local copy of all of these data containers, that physical connection, that link between the two is completely broken. So these are the two ways that we get to incorporate and combine Blender project files into another Blender project files. There are benefits of each. And I think it's really great that we understand the differences between append and link.